Good evening. I think it's evening already, everyone. All protocols observed in the interest of time, and may I welcome all our colleagues, but in particular to specially welcome our two invited guests, Professor Rashida Manju and my colleague of long standing, Commissioner Tracy Robinson, for making and for ensuring that the UWI was included in this study. So already I can see my questions ticking over about how useful this might be for us, or should be for us. And I wanted to again thank Ms. Paragrass Gayatri for responding at short notice, helping us to organize this as well. She's been instrumental. My colleague, Dina Foyne, for allowing us this hallowed halls for this. And of course all the UN and other representatives here. Now, I was asked to speak on the influence, how the IGDS, the role of the IGDS in influencing policy and transforming the culture for the advancement of the rights of women. And I have a slightly prepared text that I will depart from within 10 minutes, maybe 12. Because as they began to talk, I realized that I was responding, but in a slightly different way, and that in itself was interesting to me. I would like to say, and I would like to start off by saying that I think the IGDS has a sustained history of at least 3 decades of research and analysis in women and gender studies. And I think we have been centrally the most important institution in influencing policy, transforming culture, and ensuring that gender rights are indivisible from human rights in the Caribbean. No, sorry, having sounded our own trumpet, I want to say that that has not been a singular process. It has not been in isolation, with a very close correspondence and working relationship with other organizations, in particular faculties like law, social sciences, and so on. The ministries, in particular our ministries of government in charge of gender, whatever they are named at whichever time, with the NGOs like Hazel Brown's NGO Networks of Women and other NGOs that have surfaced, been important, still existing, with UN agencies. We have worked always closely with UN agencies. But recently I attended, I was invited to, and me and my colleague from the head of the Cave Hill unit was invited to this is in February of this year, the first special meeting of the directors and coordinators of Women's Gender Bureaus. It was hosted by UN Women, CDB, that's the Caribbean Development Bank for Rashida's information, and CARICOM. The aim of the meeting was to review CARICOM's position on the 59th session of the UN Commission on the Status of Women in the post-2015 global negotiations around targets and indicators. Not only was the entire regional bureau heads represented, but at this meeting there were representatives from key permanent missions, from New York, vibrant activist groups, Hazel and myself were both there, all the women's bureaus heads, a lot of activists. And what is the question that I left there, and it's a very central question that I come back to with what something Rashida said, and may I call it Rashida, sorry, it's much easier, was that it almost struck me as if there was a well-kept secret around this whole negotiating machinery, that there were different actors positioned differently. And because of those silences and gaps, we were all not working in tandem to create the kind of transformation that we wanted. And I suddenly realized where were our gaps and where we needed to step up. And this is why, again, I think this is the kind of important discussion that we have to have a conversation. Having said that, though, I want to place the IGDS in its precise context, and that it is an academic institution. Its mandate is teaching, research, and outreach. It is a small department and under-resourced as most gender departments. So we have managed to do what we have done precisely because of our capacity, our staff's capacity to have integrated all three dimensions, teaching, research, and outreach, to have this consistent relationship between knowledge production and politics of change. That has been the ongoing way we do it. And thus, individual factor research cannot be separated from the ideas that we transmit in classrooms, our training of professionals who go into policy making areas and so on, and institutions, and the specific outreach activities that are geared towards change. But I think, may I just, may I have about 5 minutes? Right, I just wanted to quote three or four examples of the way in which the Institute has worked in order to influence policy, and the way we see that process taking place. I will refer to a few of my staff members who are in the audience here, and I'll be brief on the examples, but because I can't obviously deal with the extent of them. The first, I will deal with the area of gender and violence. We have a very long history of working in that area. It goes, way beyond the 80s. But I want to point out that there were 2 or 3 very valuable bodies of work. Professor Reddox worked together with Paula Morgan and Rwanda Gopal in 1994, Women, Family and Family Violence in the Caribbean, prepared for the CARICOM Secretariat for the International Year of the Family, which was done by the then CGDS, Center for Gender Development, which has been a formative paper in this area, still used today. Raquel Suko, a member of our staff, who's been working on domestic violence of power. Again, these kinds of papers, Raquel's papers, presented to a domestic violence and public policy seminar organized by the Center for Criminology and Criminal Justice and the IGDS. So these are policy areas that we intervene in. The most recent example, and again there were many in between, is this one, the Breaking the Silence project, which is one done by Professor Reddox and others. This has been a major change agent. Not only has this project intervened specifically in the areas of incest, child abuse, violence in general, but it has been activist as well as a scholarly one, producing many things, including a logo, a blue teddy, which has been adopted by other partners, not only in Trinidad but elsewhere. So there's been different levels at which that change has been going on. How it influences policy, as far as I know, the Prime Minister adopted took to it. The Ministry of Gender had a training session together with UNICEF. So there's been these kinds of initiatives that go on at this level and get picked up elsewhere. So part of what we do is in fact influence the steps towards policy as opposed to creating the actual policy. The second area I want to go to, the second major area I want to focus on, is the area of gender policy making in the Caribbean. I'll be brief here, but that has been extensive since 1999. I have been one of the major architects in 4 national gender policies, Cayman Islands, the British Virgin Islands, Commonwealth of Dominica, and have worked on 2 various incarnations of the national gender policy. Again, Hazel will tell you a lot more about that. These have not made policy per se, but they've influenced how we have changed ideas related to gender, we have transformed. In addition, Dr. Gabriel Hussein, he's in the audience somewhere, has also launched and has carried out a 2-year research project on politics, power, and gender justice in the Anglophone Caribbean. Major IDRC research project involving cross-region, Guyana, Dominica, Trinidad, Tobago, etc. All of these have advanced democratic governance and women's rights, and therefore the question of violence and women's rights have been central. We've also been involved in a Building Global Democracy project coming out of Warwick, in which I have been a central part, in which what we do at gender policy making in the Caribbean has been brought as a lesson for other societies. And that has moved into different arenas that I didn't conceive of at first, including the role of gender in public policy. What is important is what comes out of this is the role of the IGDS in critiquing the ways in which public policy does not incorporate gender, as well as the ways in which we might critique, we might suggest different paths to policy. The third major area, and I don't have very much area, third major area has been the area of LGBT rights. And I think without the informed ways in which the Institute has been a consistent thorn in the side of the society, with conversations with, I won't go into details, but very recent ones, including one we held, which was called Evolving Gender and Feminist Conversations, Cyber Activism, Social Networking, and LGBT Organizing, held at UWI, and this was in December 2014. And ironically, the same day, Rosemary, Professor Antoine, and I were on another panel held by the Equal Opportunity Commission on the question of the Equal Opportunity Act. That was Human Rights Day. And so we have been part of that conversation. One other example here is a film that we did for the IPPF to launch the international, it is called the S Factor, to launch the IPPF Sexual Rights and Human Rights Declaration, in quote to speak. So there are different levels at which we operate. There are many challenges left. First, I'm wrapping up now, sorry. There are many challenges left for us to deal with. I know this is an ongoing work, and it requires us fully to understand the national, regional machinery. But I want to add here that IGS does not see itself as only reacting to the current and past issues already defined, but anticipating new areas. And I want to end with an area that we've moved into, which I think responds back to a question and a challenge raised by both Tracy and Rashida. We are now launching a work-life balance, and it's a project on work-life balance, its impact on the productivity of working men and women, and on the well-being of aging population of children. There's been no such studies done in this society, and I think very few in the Caribbean, any. We want to understand what is this new dispensation under which women are. What are the strains and stresses that lead to the kind of violences that we see now? And to understand that more thoroughly. And in doing this, perhaps we can find a path to what are the transformative ways that we can produce to enforce state accountability, if not in the paths that we have used before. Some of these have been tried and tested. What new ways do we need to create policies, to create bodies of information that actually put pressure on the state to respond to populations of different kinds? So this is another way, if you like, of attempting to tackle the same questions of violence. So finally, just to end, my question to end with is, we are poised, we understand the struggle continues, but we would like to become more informed as well as involved with the regional and international machinery that you are both part of. And we want to take this apparent and seeming relative distance and ivory-towered notion people have of gender studies and ideas outside of that perception, because we know we aren't. We just need to build some more bridges. Thank you.